about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue. Available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Distributed by Echo Blue Limited. Visit us on the Lansopine Main Road or call 405-4818.
Something powerful is coming to Grenlec customers. Smarter service, more convenience, a greener way to connect. Get ready for a better way to manage your electricity service. Coming soon. Grenlec, empowering you.
Good evening once again, and welcome to Doctor on Call. It's been a while. Yes, we were on a break, and like I said, for the other programs, we're back to regular scheduled programs. So it is indeed a pleasure to be back with you, all our loyal listeners, our viewers on GBN Television 7 and 11, our friends on our YouTube channel, and also our friends on K105 FM. It is such a pleasure to be back, sharing information with you, all right? Of course, to help you maintain your wellness. Doc is back with me as always, and it's a good time to say welcome. Dr. Nixon, good evening. Welcome back.
Good evening, sir.
It's a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the little break that we had. Of course, Carnival, then the CPL, and here we are again.
Yeah, long live Jab Jab. I know you don't like Jab Jab.
No. Actually, I do like Jab Jab, but I go for the authentic Jab, the one we used to call the Yay.
You mean Ule Ule Lambe Jab Jab?
The real thing.
The one that reads the Bible from the back. The book
that's
that's. I mean bona fide Jab Jab.
That's the Jab. What we have here is in the words of Donald Trump, that is fake jab. That is not the real jab.
No, I call them corporate jab. The people that just go and take a look at the
real jab played with tar. You had to get your lad to grease down, and then you put the tar. That is jab. That's the yay. And that's the real thing. They use the drums, not DJ. So that is the jab.
No,
and that's what I love.
Where they get jab getting sing about dancing with big truck.
That's what I'm telling you. That's not jab.
Yeah.
That's not jab. That's probably ab, but clearly not jab. But it's good to be back. Spice Mass is over. And we're back. The CPL is still ongoing, but of course some adjustments to the schedule as they get closer to the final rounds of the competition, the semi, and of course the final coming up in a couple of weeks. So it's good to come back with our programs. And of course there's a lot happening, Doc. Usually coming from Carnival, it usually lives flew with us. I didn't hear, it didn't get a name this year. I don't know if it wasn't as bad as previous years, but it didn't get a name. Usually,
the Callaloo.
Well, right, yeah. I feel like a Callaloo. So in other words, you had to grease it down then. You had to
grease it down with Vicks.
Grease it down with some Vicks and all of that. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And kerosene oil under your foot.
All of that. Yes, and of course, but there was an increase in respiratory disease. We heard that dreaded word come back, COVID, and so there's a lot of reason to be careful. In addition to that, we're at a time of the year, although we're in the peak of the hurricane season, but it's the time when we experience, and we've seen that happen over the last few years, the time of the year when we experience the highest temperatures. Mm-hmm. So it's extremely hot, and of course the threat of hurricanes always looming over the horizon. So there is a lot to talk about. In all of that, we still have to be concerned about our food safety and so much. So Doc, I don't know where we are going to start tonight, but maybe we could probably start with the rise in respiratory infections.
Well, I think we should look at I'll just look at Carnival as a big group thing, because I think there's a couple of things that came out of Carnival that I would like to speak about. And not that we haven't spoken about it before, but I think it's a good time to address it again. Mm-hmm. One, the fact that we become involved in very large groups, because I'm sure St. George's had 30,000 people in town on Juve, 20,000 people. There's just a lot of people on the streets. I looked at what was it, Friday night?
The Soca Monarch, Soca and Groovy Monarch, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it looked like I was the only person who wasn't there. There were just so many people, a lot of people coming into the country, and we just don't know what they come with. But it's a lot of crowd involvement, and while we haven't had any major, there have been a few incidences, but nothing to that the police can handle. And I think we really should congratulate the RGPF, the police force, for good planning and execution of a plan, and being very professional about their policing and being firm. Because I think that's one of the things when you can't give one person leeway and don't give another, or you shouldn't give anybody leeway. You really have to, have crowd control on a man. Despite the fact that there was so much rain and all the parking issues, the RGPF seem to have pulled it off well. So congratulations to them. Because there's always a challenge that can end up being a health challenge. If you have a stampede, if you have fighting, whatever it is, ends up being a health challenge, okay? And so they've been able to control the crowds that we've had at all of our festivals, and Grenada Carnival was hot, okay? I know people already booked to come back next year, and all my friends in New York claim that they're coming home because they're vexed that they never came to Carnival this year. So it should be something bigger. Grenada Carnival have vibes, okay? That's the bottom. And people like the easy and the freedom and the safety, which again, RGPF, kudos to you. Grenadians, really good for your behavior on the street and in the events. People went to have fun, and that's what they did, okay? So, and I think it was also a very good therapeutic moment for a lot of people. We've come through a lot in the last. We had hurricane last year. We had, it's been transition into a new government. There's been a lot of changes and a lot of challenges for us, right? People have had a lot of family losses and all the rest of it. And so I think Carnival was very therapeutic for most of the people who come to enjoy Carnival, did enjoy themselves. I'm always concerned about the excessive consumption of alcohol and the safety. And I've seen a couple comments made, but I'm always concerned. I'm going to still ask you to be very careful. I'm always concerned that when we have Carnival, we tend to have an upsurge in the acuteness, in the illness that a lot of the chronic diseases bring, because people stop take their medications, they drink too much rum, they eat too much oil down with too much salt and too much fat and too much carbs, their sugar gets out of control, blah, blah, blah. So there's always an extra amount of people who become hospitalized, especially people who come to visit and really want to have a good time. That is not a very good idea. We shouldn't stop our medications. We shouldn't stop our lifestyle. You can enjoy the party, but you don't have to eat so much oil, and you don't have to drink, and you don't have to drink so much sodas on the road, despite the fact that it was hot. Right? So those are some of the concerns. And then what it transitions to. We know that always after Carnival there's there's always something. I have a couple people call it Kalaloo. I guess because Kalaloo is probably the most outstanding word in Grenadian parlance, at least during Carnival season. But there has been COVID. There's been a lot of COVID, and COVID that really, 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 really easy to catch or contagious. So we've had people, and some of us think we just have common colds. It's been COVID. We've been tested, and the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Charles, has made comments about it. They sent out a circular for the nation in relation to COVID. So I think people who are at risk. Are you at risk? Yes, you're at risk if you are in the extremes of age. So the very young and the very old, who have the immune system already compromised. People who have not been vaccinated are likely to get more serious COVID, regardless of what people tell you. That is the reality. If you've had your vaccines, you probably can transition a little easier from a physical standpoint. You may get it, but it wouldn't be as serious. Of course, people who have chronic disease like hypertension and diabetes and heart problems, especially if you do not have these under control, you will get COVID, or you're likely to get COVID. So I would advise people, until we see the numbers start to deteriorate, they start to get much smaller, I think we should go back to the use of wearing masks. We know how to do this, okay? We've done it. We've saved a lot of lives when we all stayed by ourselves. So there's no need to go into big crowds, and there's no need to be they're ramaging and partying and But our kids have to go to school, and they have to interact. So maybe we really should get our kids' spaces covered. If your child has a cold, let him stay home. Right? Because until you can prove what's there, take the child to the doctor. We can do an easy COVID test. COVID test is free in the health center. So that is one of the things, right? There is COVID, and we know what COVID can do. COVID, yes, can be mortal. It can kill you. But apart from it, just makes you very sick, and nobody wants to feel like that after such a fabulous festive season. So, hand washing, mommy, daddy, put some sanitizer in the children's handbag as another, just like they have a pencil, let them have their sanitizers on their bag, remind them to wash their hands, remind them to keep their mask on, speak to teacher. And if your child has a cold, or extricate the child from the classroom, keep him home for a few days. I know it's hard for a lot of parents because you don't really have where to give care, but we're gonna have to work it out because you really don't want your child. And if you go, you don't want your child to get sick. And if you go to the school and you notice there's a child in a classroom with a cold, please draw it to the attention of the teacher, just for the well-being of your child who may not yet be sick, and the other children who are in the classroom. So that's COVID. It's hot.
It is.
It's hot like the devil granny fireside when she's cooking. It's just really very hot. And so again, I want us to focus on the people in the extremes of ages. Okay? The very young who can't take care of themselves, and the very old who already lost the sense of thirst, and who may not be able to be sufficiently mobile, who may be a little cognitively challenged, they can't make decisions on their own, or they don't remember the last time they had water. And I'm going to see a lady who had dementia. And it was morning time. She had her breakfast in front of her and told me she don't know when last she eat, how they treat her so bad. She don't know when last. So as we get older, we get forgetful. We don't understand where we are, what time of the day it is, what has already happened or not. So encourage our older people to take sips. Okay? Sips during the day, make sure and a little coconut water will come in handy for rehydration. look out for your children. Make sure they have water. And I kind of want to leave the children and the water in a little category by itself, because we want to talk about what is happening with our children and taking up from where we left off in relation to in relation to good nutritional practices. But mommy, give your child a bottle of water, some water to take in a day. Insist that they have proper water, the children have proper access to water. We've been looking at it. Most of the schools have access to water, right? Make sure there's access. Even water in the tap is better than no water at all. Except the water in the tap can be a tad hot. If you've tried to use water after 10 o'clock in the morning, it just remains warm in the pipe all day. So if we can give our children cool enough water, and ask teachers to encourage the kids to drink water, sips of water as the day goes by, to avoid dehydration, especially our smaller children, the children who are in daycare, the smaller bodied children who lose a little bit of fluids and get quite dehydrated. So that's the thing with heat. The heat also means that you have to keep cool. Sometimes we tend to put on a lot of clothing on our older people and on our children. Old people like to wear a lot of layers of clothing. But we also need to make sure that there is proper ventilation in our homes, that there is a way to keep our bodies cool. And sometimes the clothing that our children wear can be a little extra, okay? Yes, downpours of rain come, put a raincoat in a bag, or a sweater or a hat or something in their bag so they can cover their heads, cover their backs if it rains. But we must make sure that our children's bodies are cool. Our schools, most of our schools, I guess maybe all of our schools, I don't know any school that is air conditioned. You know any school that's air conditioned?
No, I don't.
The smaller private schools do have air conditioning in their classroom, where they have, really small rooms and stuff. But most of our schools are not air conditioned, and a lot of our modern schools are not really built for proper ventilation. So we're gonna have to find ways to make sure children can be kept cool. Guess what? This is global warming, and global temperatures are going to go up and up. We've seen the glaciers melting. We've seen all kind of craziness, right? This year with La Nina, we're not going to have a very cold winter. So, the heat is going to continue. Yeah, it's probably going to go around at the end of September, October, but it's still going to be relatively warm. So remember, keeping your body cool, making sure you bathe your children in the morning and in the afternoon, rinse them out in the morning, and give them a nice wash in the evening to keep them clean and keep their skin clean after all the sweat and all the dirt that we meet out there. The truth is, there is still a lot of, even though we don't think about it, there's a lot of Sahara dust.
Oh yeah, in fact, there's in the past 2 days, there's a tropical wave. Even there's one approaching, and the impact of it is suppressed by plumes of dry Sahara dust. So it's still present.
Praise the Lord on the one hand, but it's really been humid for us because it also traps all the moisture under the clouds, and we really get very hot. But we have to find ways to keep cool, okay? And to understand that this hot weather is difficult. The hot weather is also difficult for people who are pregnant, okay? Really very difficult, makes them very uncomfortable and can make them ill. The hot weather is also extremely distressing for people with mental health problems, because sometimes the people with mental health problems, the medications that they consume, the heat tends to increase the availability. And so they have a lot of discomfort, emotional and mental discomfort, physical and mental discomfort as a result of the medication. So we have to look at that and make sure we can provide environment where they are comfortable. People with mental illness who are taking medications. Because what it will mean, if the medication makes them feel sick, they will not take their medications. And as a result, they will get ill. And we don't really want that to happen. If you have a mentally ill person who is stable and cooperative with their medication and stuff, adherent to whatever their medication regime is, we really want to do that, but we have to support them otherwise so they don't feel uncomfortable. People working outside. Could you imagine if you're working on the roof or you're working in a field? We're going to have to look at, we've spoken about this when we were speaking about the environmental challenges.
Yes, we have.
Maybe the trades unions are going to have to look at how we change the working hours for people who are very exposed to the uncomfortable climatic and weather conditions. Okay? I don't know. I don't even want to go out in the street in the day when I don't want to leave my office because it's air conditioned. Go outside and I feel like I'm going to die. Okay? It takes me a long time to recuperate if I spend 15 minutes on the road. So I don't know how people who work on the roofs and who work outside, in the street, doing construction and stuff, I don't know how they manage it. And we're going to have to find a way around it because there must be a way around it. Okay? As our children go back to school, we also have to think about road safety. I don't know where all these cars come from, but worse than that, I don't know where all these bad drivers come from. Sorry. These people who conduct vehicles poorly, because I don't know that them driving, I see them bullying on the road, I see them rude on the road, I see them doing all the wrong things that do not fall in the road code as normal. So please teach your children to cross the street and we have to be very careful when we're driving. Sometimes we have to give away our right of way. Okay, there are lots of vehicles on Grenada's roads and lots of people who today see them learning to drive like this and tomorrow they on their cell phone and barely touching the thing. Okay, I'm going to ask our drivers to all be equally responsible because I want to arrive as safely and as quickly as you want to arrive safe and quickly. So let's be conscientious. Let's be understanding that we're all road users. And the road code is there. If we all follow it, right, we will all arrive alive. Mm-hmm. The people who cross from the bus park from one side of the street to the others, I'm going to ask them, please use the pedestrian crossing. Melbourne Street is chaotic. A young schoolgirl today ran across in front of my car about 10 feet before the pedestrian cross. She just dashed from the bus park over to St. John Street. Well, headed in that direction. She just ran across. And there's a pedestrian crossing that I respect. Yep.
Okay? It happens. I've seen it happen quite a bit.
Yeah. And this child is probably like 13, 14. I'm not talking about a 6-year-old going to Heinze School on Mother Rose. I'm talking about a young adolescent who all she can think about, she's probably going to meet someone. We have to be responsible. Please use a pedestrian crossing. The traffic wardens and the police give pedestrians priority when there are lots of them. We have to use the road, you have to use the road, but we have to use the road equally. So please, and don't put us at risk. The people who come off the buses walk in the street and they have 5 feet of sidewalks on which to walk. So it creates stress for the drivers who then drive fast and just want to get out of there, right? And put everybody at risk, including the drivers themselves. So please, when you come out of the bus or you go into the bus park, kindly use the sidewalk. There's a sidewalk that's barricaded to protect you. Kindly step on the sidewalk. It's really hard, especially when you're walking from the Esplanade direction, going to the bus park, with your back to the traffic on the same side. It's really very difficult. Not to mention that half of the time there are people who just stop in the middle of the road. Okay, so our traffic, our use of the road is challenging and it's creating stress for everybody. This is what bothers me. The level of stress we have to deal with on the road every day. Okay, bus driver driving too fast, people driving badly on the road, people crossing the street. I mean, I had to ask a lady if she's teaching her children to kill themselves on the road. She just walk across in front of my car with a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. Just walk across. You know? And yeah, because she's in the road, she just walk across in front of my car. And it's almost like people want to bully the drivers to say, hey, you need to stop. No, the driver does not have to stop unless it's a pedestrian crossing or unless the driver is being polite. So let's make sure that we can all use the road safely and cooperatively. Okay, and above all, teach our children how to use the road so that they are safe when they're traveling all by themselves on the road.
No, very, very, very important. Very, very important indeed, Doc. And I just want to echo that because some of the things that you're making reference to, I encounter them on a daily basis. You know, there are people who have a habit. The pedestrian crossing is 5 feet away from you. and it's too difficult for you just to walk to the pedestrian crossing
step up on
and
the
use
pedestrian
it.
crossing.
You feel that you have the right to just run across the road. I mean, this is ridiculous.
And often I find people are challenging the drivers. You know, they give you bad signs. They look at you cross-eyed. They almost bullying you when you're just really being polite.
No, it's look, there are problems all around. I mean, for example, the other day I'm driving from Grandland, so I'm close to the Wall Street area. So there's a bus. He's on the bus stop. Of course, you know they don't go on the bus stop. They stop at a point just so that the other vehicle can pass. And I am coming. There's another one pulls up alongside the bus that is stopped and drives across. So the one that is on the bus stop, so to speak, cannot go forward because he's parked crossway to block him. And there's a line of vehicle behind wanting to pass, and they will not allow you to pass. And that's the sort of thing that you see bus drivers do these things on a regular basis, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So there are problems, and you know what is most worrying, Doc? There are people on the bus, right, who have no problem with drivers driving recklessly. They have no problem with that. They think it is fine.
I take bus and bus drivers don't. I took a bus. You know that bus stop by GBS is across from the Union
Yes.
building? So I'm going to walk in Grandance. But I live on this side of town, so I park my car by GBS's there, you know, on the grass, by Roy St. John Field, and I take the bus. And I get into the bus on the front, and there's a young man sitting in the front and a driver. And when we get to the roundabout by Tropicana, there's a car proceeding from Grandland's direction, but he's going to turn into paddock. So he's going to turn right. That's right?
Yeah.
Right, into paddock. And the bus driver jumps across in front of him. And I very politely said to him, you know he has the right of way, right? And he asked me if I want to come drive there. I said, no, I have a car. Right? I said, I own a car. I don't want to drive. Well, you want to come off? I said, by all means, thank you.
No, they're very disrespectful.
No, I got off. I got off at the bus.
They're very
gas station.
They're very disrespectful.
Because,
There's some bus drivers. I don't know if
because I said to him, maybe you do not value your life and you don't value mine. Thank you. And I got off at the bus and I got off at the gas station.
But there are people who will not do that. There are people who find there's nothing wrong with that, and they don't understand that their lives can be in danger because of the actions of some of these bus drivers. I just don't understand it. I don't.
But it's not even your life being in danger. What about your children coming from school and probably using the same buses that you travel?
Yeah.
How safe are your children on the buses? What do you teach your children? I'm not looking for excitement from you, driver. If I want excitement, I'll probably go drag race in Grenville on a weekend. You know? But
no, they do this very, very, very...
have to learn that they have a responsibility on the road for the passengers that they carry. And passengers should not be afraid to tell them, I am paying you for a service that you need to deliver at a certain standard. Because that is what it is. You know?
No, it is, and I don't know why people think that they have to accept that kind of thing. I definitely will not. Well, I rarely use the bus, so but you experience that kind of behavior on the road, and it's very, very, very annoying, And I don't know if they're not speeding, they drive very, very slow and they don't allow you to pass. Like they don't think that there are people who are also going to work, and it's just so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's annoying.
Yeah, we're gonna have to step it up, and it has to do with basic respect for one another.
It has to do with basic intelligence.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
I want to ask. No, you're right. I want to ask you a question, and I'm kind of slipping the topic. So this is September morning. And you have a child that's going to primary school, right? your 7-year-old is going to go back to primary school. You're not even just starting. I'm talking about a child who's already been in school. What are the thoughts, what are the anxieties that you experience as a parent? What do you think most parents experience?
Well, living home, of course, the traffic on the road, that's one thing. It depends on where you're living. For example, in my days, you live just a few blocks from the school, so you walk. But when you have to take the public transportation, that in itself is a worry. All right.
So you're worried about the child's safety?
It's safety, very, very much so, very much so.
Okay.
And the safety goes beyond that. It goes beyond just the, getting
the driver.
It goes beyond that. We know the school system, and I'm not trying to, bash the system, but it's not what it used to be. There seems to be a lack of the level of control then that existed before. Somewhere along the line, we've lost a bit of that. So the kind of behaviors that you see exhibited in school nowadays, it's a little concerning.
But what do you tell your child? What do you tell your child? What should one tell their child?
And it has to do, and I just want to backtrack a bit. It's also very important for parents and children to have a very good relationship, so that when anything goes wrong or anything happens, your child should feel very comfortable and free to come to you and say, "Mom, Dad, this is what happened. That is what happened," and seek your assistance when it's needed. A child should feel comfortable to go to the teacher if there is a problem. If the child needs help, you can do that. So all of these little things I think are very important. I think it's also important to teach your child to understand the type of company that they should be in, so that they don't find themselves in problems by default. That is, if you, as a parent, that you've done your best in ensuring that your child is properly trained. So these things.
Teaching a child to manage risk.
Yeah. So these are some of the concerns, and getting your child to understand the importance of not placing themselves in danger,
in risky situations.
Yes.
So I want to go back a little further, because I always am concerned when I hear the week before school opened. First of all, Friday was chaotic in town, so I left. Remember, it rained in the midday, and the bushery almost come over. I mean, I'm driving through River Road, and the bushery looked like it going to swallow me very soon, because it was coming down because a lot of the rain fell in the hills as well, right? And because we have all these watershed problems, the river would come down quickly. And town was replete, just full of people doing shopping for school. But then I'm hearing parents speaking about, uniform, their children don't have uniform, and they don't have this, and they don't have that. Really? And while I understand that people have really and truly have financial challenges, why are these being addressed 2 days before school starts?
So we know from January. Understand.
We know from January that schools are going to be open in September, okay? Every year. School starts in September. Yeah, and everybody like they're trying to go looking nice, pretty ribbon in their hair, like a new shirt, new pants, new shoes. Yeah, we want to do that. I don't have a problem with that. It happens everywhere in the world, okay? And I think it's out of a sense of pride. People want their children to look like they're really going out on a mission when September morning comes. But I'm concerned about the level of self-inflicted stress that parents, mostly self-inflicted, there are parents who can't afford, but those of us who take money and do carnival and go every party, have a new outfit for every single party, who go 9-10 party over the carnival week, and fail to recognize what your priorities really should be.
Exactly.
Okay. that concerns me.
You know, Doc.
Because I also,
just to butt in a second. I think that kind of behavior has almost become cultural. Because it happens every year. It is like now part of our culture to do everything else, and the last day before school open, you're running all over the place like a crazy person, trying to make what should have happened a month or 2 months ago happen in a matter of an hour or two.
So I remember that my book have to have dog ears when school starts in September. So my father would buy our books very early. You have to read up all these books. If you don't understand nothing else in there, you just have to go through them and read all whatever in the book. Look at the maths, whatever it is, right? So your children don't get that, you don't fall back. Because your kids actually do fall back if there's no academic stimulation, no mental stimulation during those 8 weeks or 10 weeks of vacation that children enjoy. And I think they deserve to have the vacation on top of it. It's so hot. I don't know that they can learn under the circumstances. But I really want us to learn how to avoid the stressors or the stresses that parents, especially single parents, experience when it comes to going back to school. I never had new skirt every year, okay? That wasn't necessary. In those days, we had terylene and wool. You get it, go to the laundry, and then after 2 years, if it's still the same size, you turn it on the next side and you wear it.
Yeah.
Okay. I never had a uniform every day. And sometimes, if you grow in the year, you probably need a new shoe anyway. When September morning, you polish your shoe and you're gone to school. You don't make no big set of fuss about that. But it's okay if people really want to have their kids have new things. But I want us to really take it a pace. So once your child comes home in the summer, you know that this is what has to happen, right? You know, you have to start planning. How am I going to feed my child when he goes back to school? There's been all this discussion on childhood obesity and nutrition in school and activities. Do you make plans for your children to be active during the summer so they grow? Do they go to their grandmother's house and run up and down with their cousins and climb tree and fall along and bruise their knee, broke their foot, whatever they do, right? All of those things are the things I'd like us to consider once the children come home on holidays, right? And go apace. Okay, it's August, it's the beginning of August, time for us to look for uniform. And there are uniform programs that you can go and seek support to get fabric to make uniform for your children, okay? So, and there are programs where you can get books for your children. And, we still kind of books down. I don't know if you did that. So, if somebody in a class below me, they know they're getting the books. And
yes, of course, that's how it worked. That's how it worked, yeah.
We have to get creative in order to eliminate the amount of stress that I think, and mothers don't realize they really get stressed. It becomes an unnecessary source of stress, because they leave it a little too late. It bothered me on Friday when I saw so many people in town with their kids in the soggy streets and the rain. Granted, the rain went away after a while, but and the traffic backed up for miles and all this foolishness. Why do you have to be putting the children through that? I mean, yeah, but we also have to stop. We also have to stop subjecting ourselves to so much stress. That's an unnecessary stress. I know that school has started. Did we take our children to the doctor, to the health center to get checked up before? Well, that's another thing, So, you remember there's this thing that we're still speaking about, that amendment to the law as to when children can go to the doctor themselves. It's still in the air, okay? The adolescent health policy. Mm-hmm. But I haven't seen many adolescent parents take their children to the doctor for a regular checkup before school open. There's some schools who require that you have a health visit, right? But I haven't seen parents make much effort, take your children to the dentist, take them to the to the clinic to get seen, to check their hemoglobin, to see if they have worms and parasites, and to treat that, to see whether their nutritional state is fine, to look at their vision and make sure that they're prepared. Those are some of the things we spoke of earlier in the year.
Yeah, but I can
in the beginning before.
But I can guarantee you, Doc, that many of them took their children to play jab and jumping up among big hardback people using all levels of obscenity and behaving in all kind of unruly manner, and the children are there, 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds in the middle and chanting the same things. Exactly.
So, it and I know that's a big bother to you. I know that's a very big bother to you. But I worry about just how do we look, have we relinquished supervision of our children and caring for our children to whosoever?
I think the parents they should be called upon to explain that kind of actions.
But where do parents get that support from? Who provides that kind of support for parents?
I don't know.
We have community groups, we have church, we have community organizations and stuff. I think our parents require support in relation to guiding their children.
Doc, that is one thing, and I agree that they need support. But here's another question: how many of them are seriously interested in that kind of support? You see, sometimes. Let me tell you one of the concerns I have. And I am all for supporting people who need support. But the question is, sometimes we talk a lot about, people need support and people need this and people need that and all of that. But, I ask the question, have we seriously considered, while I agree that there are people who need support, have we seriously considered whether there's a particular percentage of these people who we are crying for support for actually wants the support or make any kind of effort at all to get the kind of support or to do something to help themselves move forward? I question that. I seriously question it. These are things we need to probably look into.
What are the agencies who are responsible for that? Child Protection, Ministry of Social Development, right? Mm-hmm. Ministry of Education, and maybe that's something that they're gonna have to look at, because the truth is we've watched our society deteriorate, and it's not just Grenada. I'm just talking globally, right? Because there are things that we require to do that require social intervention. We talk about it takes a village. But a village is just a set of individuals, everybody seeking their own.
Doc, let me tell you.
We're no longer able to do that.
I'll tell you something, and maybe there are people who may not agree and they may not like that statement. I'll say it anyway. But some of these organizations that are tasked with these responsibilities, I think some of them are a bunch of jokers. I'll tell you why. They are very reactive. You telling me that Child Protection don't see all these little 4 and 5-year-olds jumping up in jab? They see them?
Maybe not. Maybe the people
have they? We are living in the age of social media. And jab started playing since when and our Prime Minister made a comment and everybody got vexed and figure, he supports jab.
And jumping on his throat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, you telling me that these agencies don't see these things happening? They do. But guess what? I can guarantee you, they would do nothing to help prevent it. But let one of the little children get hurt or end up in harm's way where something serious happens to them, and them organizations all over the place like crazy people. Protection this and protection that, and you have this. Look, we have to learn to avoid certain situations. When you avoid certain things from happening, you do not have to be placed in a situation where you have to try and find a cure. It's similar to people and their health. If we take care of ourselves, we won't have to be running up and down to find cure for the problems that we place ourselves in. And that is my problem I have with some organizations. They talk when things happen.
We have a challenge. Yeah, but we have a challenge with parenting.
Yes, we do.
And
totally
we
agree.
have a national problem with parenting. Who's going to bail the cat? Because we also know that a lot of the disciplinary problems in school are because of lack of parenting. And you dare not speak to my child, or you dare not talk to my child. And sometimes the teachers just don't know how to talk to the child. They do not try and correct my child.
So are we saying, Doc, that we are living in a society where parents are encouraging that kind of slackness and nothing is done about it?
But I'm saying that we live in a society where we have severe parenting challenges with parenting.
Yes.
And that becomes, for me, it becomes a health issue, because you have children who are stressed, parents and children who don't get ahead, children who don't get proper caring and upbringing, who have behavioral problems and all those, and those are health problems. So maybe we need to start to look at how parenting is going to be guided, right? How are we gonna help us to be better parents? How are we gonna make the village take back the bringing up of our future generations, right? Because there are people who don't want you to talk to their children, or don't let their children talk to people, right? We become very isolated. A lot of social stratification and other issues that cause people not to relate to each other as before. So maybe we have to make a quest to the people who run it. Because I can tell you, if we don't have proper parenting and cooperative parenting, we're not going to be able to implement a proper school nutrition policy. Can you agree with me on that?
Yes, I agree. Of course. I am not disagreeing with nothing that you're saying, you know. I just want to look.
If we don't have good parenting practices, we're not going to be able to have our children participating in physical activity. Because a girl can say she has a period every week and she's not playing. And parents, I don't want my children run up and down in school. If we don't have that thing where parents can understand what our children really need, right? Because I can tell you, every child has a cell phone, right? And other things that they don't require they don't really require for their development. As a matter of fact, they have been begging children to stay off the iPads and the handheld devices because of the challenges with their brain development. Okay? Are we going to have a nation of people who can't learn? Or is everybody going to be learning differently and we don't have teachers who can teach differently? What is going to be the problem? So it's not just a social problem, it becomes a health problem. Because when you have people who can't learn, you'll have people who are not going to follow, who are not going to understand the trends they need to take for a healthy life.
But Doc, I believe these things needs to be addressed from home. You see, some of this problem stems from home. And unless some parents are called upon to account for some of these actions, we are not going to make any progress on that.
But do you think, I'm coming back, do you think, I don't believe that all parents have the capacity.
And yes, I agree. I totally agree. And we need to understand why. We need to understand why. Because I believe the same reason why. Because you see, if we continue that way, Doc, for example, you have a parent or you have some parents that don't have the capacity to do what they're supposed to do. If it's not addressed, you know what's going to be happening? They are going to be bringing children into the world that will just take the problem further down the road because they cannot teach the children what they need to be taught to make the difference. So the problem has to be addressed at that level. There's a gentleman who always calls on the radio and he's very, very strong on bringing back night school. the days when the revolution used to have what you used to call it, was it the CPE, Center for Popular Education. So there are some. It is not that there isn't anything that could be done. We need to start. We need to start. So
you think as a country we need to look at our education challenges.
Yes.
And the social how our society impacts the quality of education and how our children respond to the education intervention based on their socialization.
Yeah, and not only that, there are too many of our young people. You look around who do not have basic education. It is a problem because they do not understand how to deal with a lot of things. And the central government or the powers that be needs to put things in place to ensure that these things happen. In order, for example, getting a driver's license to drive on our roads, I believe that anybody who is applying for that must possess a certain level of education, or else you cannot. Because you know what's going to happen? If you cannot exercise good judgment and make good decisions, you are going to become a threat to other people on the road.
Other people's safety.
Yes, and yours as well. But a lot of these things just remain that way because some of our people,
they've always been like that.
They just live it like that so they can continue to win these people's favor. It's a major problem, and it's a worldwide problem. It's a worldwide problem. You listen.
Where leaders are empowered the way they are in our jurisdictions.
Doc, you listen. In Grenada, you listen to some of our politicians and the kind of things that they say. And just to think that some of these people were in a position where they should have done what they are complaining about, and you hear them running up and down making noise. I mean, I don't understand. This is why we are this is why things are the way they are in this country. And none of our politicians or leaders are prepared to take a serious stand to change the way things are happening in our country.
So I think one of the challenges that Grenada has in relation to that is the whole siloing of responsibilities. So nobody sees how whatever social challenges exist affect education, how it's going to affect production. You understand? How it affects how I behave in the workplace, how I regard my health and the interventions I take to make sure that I remain alive and that I live a good and healthy life. And education takes care of education. We're going to get people to get CXCs. Health takes care of health, and that's it. And everybody just silos, but we do not.
It can't work that way.
Every policy of every department of our government is supposed to include health. It means that we're going to all have to come together and see how we're going to make health work. And education is a very important. We know that in environments, the lower the education standard, the lower the standards of health. And if our children are coming out and they're not properly educated, if they see indifference at home, like I said, how many parents took their kids to get their checkup in holiday?
As compared, as I said earlier, we're asking that question, and let us probably think about it as compared to how many of them took their children to play jab and to join in the use of obscenities and foul behavior. How many of them did? Let us compare both and see how the scale would balance. And it's a problem. It is a problem, and nobody sees or pays attention to the problem until things start going wrong, and then like us here, start the people who can actually put things in place to make a difference. You hear them coming and say, "Oh, we need to do this and we need to do that." Well, you know what? We need to stop needing to do and do
and start doing stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so it means, and there's a lot of social breakdown that we really have to approach in order for us to be a well society. Right? I look at the adolescents and the alcohol consumption. It is frightening. It is frightening that they drink. Listen to me. I passed by one young girl and I was telling my friend this afternoon, the smell of the alcohol. When you whiff the alcohol, you get drunk. Your brain just go out of sync, right? And these kids are walking around with their bottles, or with their cups of alcohol. No supervision, right? No direction. And we really should be telling our children, no, this is not for you. Right? I mean, oh my goodness. Every time I whiff the alcohol, at one point I say, who has alcohol? I can smell this alcohol. You can't even see who has it. But it's so strong. Okay, the alcohol content of the drinks that they buy is so very high, right? Everybody, by the end of Carnival, everybody addicted to alcohol because they consume so much of it.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and
I asked you the question because I think we have to learn to structure how we manage our children's well-being. And that is going to be very dependent on how we manage our own well-being. And I don't think our society is very cognizant, is very aware that there are things that are going to cause unnecessary problems. And you hear me say it on this program all the time. Enjoy your carnival, but remember, you need to pay your rent, you need to pay your car mortgage, you need to buy your children school uniform. Those are the priorities. Right? And the level of stress people subject themselves to is unhealthy because they have not prioritized, right? They have not prioritized their actions and their activities based. And it's expensive to live because I don't know anybody who live here who don't complain that it's expensive. Okay? But people have disregarded what should be priorities. You have to put on your children money first, your school money first, your mortgage money first, your rent money first, your transportation money first, and then the rest can you entertain yourself as you can afford to. And so I was very concerned for mothers in particular, since we have mostly mothers heading households. In this week, that are struggle about getting their kids back to school, and can they make it? Can they make it? Can they make it financially and otherwise? And how are they coping emotionally? It bothers me. It bothers me. But it's also something that they're going to have to learn how to manage and manipulate their responsibilities to make it as stress-free as possible.
But in all of that, and while I agree with you totally, Doc, I also believe that there are times when some firm, serious decisions should be made to address some of these situations.
You're talking from a policy level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for example, you can't have, look, you see women, and this is a response, and the action has to be taken from on both sides, male and female gender. You have women who have 3 and 4 children. They are not in a position to support themselves and the children, but then you keep seeing them being pregnant again and again.
That's why we have to address our social issues, because we have to empower women, and that's why education is so very important, so that people can learn how to make good decisions. They can understand why contraception is important, why why certain behaviors are unnecessary, why I need to focus on what are my priorities in relation to how my household is run. How am I going to make myself responsible for this? Education is a fundamental element in all of that.
It is.
Education is a fundamental element, and it creates an unhealthy household where you have a mother who can't provide for her children. She quarrels with them, she calls them, they don't get what they want. Everybody, they go to school, they see kids have what they need. They come home, there's not enough food, there's not that, right? And because we have undereducated people, unfortunately.
Well,
and also undereducated people, apart from making decisions, can get jobs that give them a lot of money.
I made the point earlier. It has to be addressed because lack of basic education. I mean, I don't know if people understand how serious a problem that is. But without it, you are in a position where you just will not be able to make good decisions. And if someone like that, or people like that, go on and having children, what are they teaching these children?
And I'm asking you, yes, there's situations where the horse gone through the gate. A woman has 4 children, you can't change that. How are we going to mitigate the situation so that it improves as we go along?
Well,
those are the things you have to take into consideration.
And that's what I'm saying. It has to be addressed at the head, at home.
At the policy level.
Yes, definitely. It has to be addressed at the top. It can't be from the child come up. It has to be from the parents come down. Because clearly, something at that level, at the top, is happening that should not be happening.
Yeah.
So this is where it has to be addressed from. So you have to understand the problem, get people to understand, listen, why you should not place yourselves in this situation, and if you do, this is what can result.
So my question is, who's going to bail the cat?
It has to start at the leadership level.
Who's going to bail the cat? Who's going to make it an issue? So much so that the leadership can take it, can see the seriousness and the challenges that we face.
I think we're doing a pretty good job. I think we're playing our part, and if people out there listening needs to join that call, because if the problem can be solved as a result of putting the information out there and getting people to understand it, then we're on the right path.
So it means that we're going to have to take on, that the community is going to have to come together and everybody works together. And I'm saying that because I want to say there's some parts of our society that really have a lot of influence upon a very large portion of our population. And I don't think they use it as well as they can. And I'm speaking, for example, of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think the church still needs to reevaluate what its position is, or how able is it? How far can it do the social interventions and spiritual and moral interventions that are required to make our society a little less stressed, a little less challenging, to improve what homes are like. You know, unfortunately for us in Grenada, I find that we tend to like to accuse and punish first before we understand and support and try solve the problems in very elemental and
I'll tell you something. We've become, over the years, we've become very selfish. Gone are the days when people would share with each other. Gone is when people would sit, visit by the neighbor and sit and talk and chat and laugh. Those things don't happen anymore. So over the years, we've become very selfish. It's all about me. And you don't care what happens to this person there or that person there. Once you are happy and you are benefiting, you couldn't care less about what happened to other people. And that's how our society. Yes,
every man for himself says I.
That's how our society has broken down. Now, as it relates to the role of the church, now. Here is this.
One example.
No. Yeah, well, of course, but here is this. The church is in a very very serious position in terms of that. I'll tell you what I mean by that. And maybe serious is not the right word, but there's a certain expectation from the church. But has the church lived up to that expectation?
Yeah, but the church is also not. It's not. The church is not homogeneous in its existence.
No, I agree. I agree.
We can talk about the churches because different churches, churches.
Yes, but that's the point. So when I say church, I'm not speaking about any particular church. I'm talking about the religious community. Yeah, religious community. Has that community lived up to the expectation? And we can make some comparisons. I made the point just now about what used to happen then and what happens now. The church before and the church now, let's have a look at it. It is different. Days gone by, and I am not here to decide what is right or what is wrong. I cannot do that. But let us, for example, look at the way the religious community behaved before. For example, when people going to church before, just the attire was different. Let's compare then and now. Let us compare, for example, what happened when you went to a church service then and what happens now. As I said, I am in no position to decide or determine what is right or what is wrong. I'm just merely comparing. But what I can tell you is, then there was a lot more respect for the religious community then than now.
So you think we have societal breakdown?
Yes, of course, in a lot.
And you believe that
but even,
if we change that, we will see an improvement in our whole life.
The truth is, Doc, I don't even believe we can change it. And it's not, and mind you, it's not just the church, Let us look at this. Listen, I can recall when I was, for example, going to primary school on holiday, and if I see my teacher, I get afraid. And let me tell you, and it's not so much that you fear your teacher going to do something, but it was the level of respect you had for that person who taught you in school.
I want to ask you if you still have respect for teachers who taught. There's some people who still alive that taught you in school, right?
Of course. When you see them, of course. I still call them Mr. This and Mr. That. Of course, yes. You see, it's something that is ingrown. So, and that's the point I make when I say how things have changed over the years and how it has broken down.
I honestly, I don't believe it's all lost. Okay, I think we probably have spread ourselves a lot more into the technology change and all the things that happen around us. But I don't think the essence is lost, and I think we just need to make efforts. It's not going to be as it was 30 and 20 and even 15 years ago. But I think we can have good standards if we work towards it. We have to really reacculturate ourselves.
Yeah, we have to start.
To be in a good position.
We may not be able to. I don't even think we need to get back there. But what I think we need to do is to put things into perspective and ensure that we're in a path that does not lead us to doom.
Yeah, but that's a responsibility for us as a nation.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And like everything else, there must be leadership. So it has to start from the top. And let it filter through.
One of the things that has been included in national development is the whole human currency. How important are the quality of our human beings and the level of development? Because in fact, you look at the GDP and say, "Oh, this country GDP is excellent and they're good," but the health in particular, the well-being of the country. So we may not be very wealthy, right? But everybody has a good home and have running water and electricity and access to school and access to church, and our kids have books and they study and we do well, and everybody can develop themselves as they should according to their ability and their talents and what their desires are. We have to focus a lot on our human value.
Mm-hmm. You know something, right? Doc?
It doesn't really matter whether you're stinking rich. If the human value is poor, then you're not going to do. You're not really. You're kind of spinning top in mud. Okay, we have to make sure that our human beings are better off in every sense of the word, whether it is socially, morally, financially, health-wise. It doesn't matter. That is what we're going to have to work on collectively as a country.
Mm-hmm. You know something, Doc?
It doesn't matter if we have oil. I don't care. Diamonds, whatever it is. Unless we can build that social capital, we're going to be in trouble.
I'm going to tell you something. Some of the problems that we encounter, that's what we spoke about tonight. I believe there is a way where we can make some progress. Like I said, I don't believe we can solve all the problems. I don't believe we can get back.
We're doomed.
No. That's what I'm saying. I agree. I agree because I believe, and this is what I'm coming to. So I don't believe we can get back to the way we were, and I don't think we need to. But let us look at for example, and we're looking at leadership here, and I'm going straight to the top in terms of our prime ministers that we've had over the years, and I'm going to start probably with Eric Gary come down. We had Gary, Bishop, Keith Mitchell, and Braffett, and Keith Mitchell and Deacon Mitchell. These four in particular, there's something very unique about these four fellas. Gary, Bishop, Keith Mitchell, and Deacon Mitchell.
Yeah, I went to PBC.
I believe that these four gentlemen, their leadership role in the country was spiraled strictly by personal support. So in other words, I'm sure you've heard, for example, that people say, a lot of the NNP parliamentarians, for example, people who won seat was because of Keith Mitchell. People vote for Keith. I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah, people vote for Keith. So they don't necessarily vote for individual. They vote for Keith because they love him. I believe the same applied to Gary, the same applied to Bishop, and I believe the same applies to Deacon Mitchell. Now, with that, I believe that with that kind of popularity and influence, I believe they can, in a serious way, start the process of change because people listen to them. People believe in them. When they speak, when they come forth, how people gravitate to them It is
They're
different.
convincing.
Yes, and because of that, I am certain that if they are serious, and we're talking now in this, well, Bishop and Gary and but if they are serious, we can see some changes made in the direction or as it relates to what we are talking about. Because
and building of social capital.
yes, people believe in them. I believe that our present Prime Minister, let me tell you something, and I'm being honest and open here. I believe some of the candidates he have there with nothing, but him as a Prime Minister, he's smart, and I believe he has in him something that the Grenadian people are attracted to, and they will follow him. They will follow him. So he is in a very good position to start that social change that we so badly need. That is this is my personal opinion, So people out there, if you agree with me, don't blame me for that. It's just my feeling.
We talked a lot about social things, but I wish we could talk a lot more. But I want us to talk about one thing that we spoke a little about it. The whole issue, there's been a lot of climate and weather challenges around us.
Oh, yes, indeed.
We just had Jenny kicking them on the weekend. We've had a series of earthquakes up and down the islands. In other places, there was an earthquake in Afghanistan.
Yes, I saw that today. Yeah.
In the last 48 hours, we've seen volcanoes. We've seen the earthquake in Russia, on the southern border of Russia, that threatened tsunami. I want us to get back to the point of being very aware that we have volcanoes around. We also have volcanic island. We have a volcano right outside of what? How many miles out of Grenada?
You mean Kikamjini? Just there. I could swim to Kikamjini. If I go inside the desert, I jump in the water, I could swim across.
Well, I know, but I'm taking them chance because I don't know that Kikamjini have any comments there. I'm saying it's so close. I want us to be very aware. We're still in the hurricane season. And yes, while we have Sahara dust, that gives us some protection, a lot of protection, we're still in Sahara dust. We used to say before June too soon, July standby, August beware, September remember, October all over. That's how it went?
Yeah.
July, right. I've seen hurricane in November and December.
Oh, yes.
Right? We saw the year, 2 years ago, last year, the year before, when we had all that heat, go all the way into the end of October, right? That's July weather extended to October. It means that there are climate change. Like I say, we're watching the glaciers break down. We watch La Nina coming, and it's not going to be a cold winter, so there's not going to be a lot of snow. There's not going to be a lot of water. Okay? We already have some water restrictions in Grenada because it has not rained as it should. I want people to be very aware of the climate change, and that climate change is going to affect the quality of our lives, especially health-wise. We're not going to have access to as much food and good food while we promoting eating healthily, grow what you eat what you grow, while promoting forgetting artificial foods for our children, making sure that our children don't eat junk. And we're going to still talk about that because that's one of the challenges. We don't have a lot of time tonight. While we're promoting healthy lifestyles for our children, being more active and all the rest, if we have natural disasters, all of that is going to be curbed. Okay? We still need to boil our water that we get because there is water restriction. All right? We still need to make sure that we plant some food and we store some food and we eat properly. Okay? We still have to be very aware. Make sure your roof is fixed. Or stick to nail in Miss Jane's house next door in the roof for her so that if a hurricane comes, it's not going to be blown away. We still have to be very aware that there are things. Look at what happened to Carriacou last year. Not that Carriacou could have done anything about it, but the devastation that Carriacou experienced tells us how vulnerable we are. how vulnerable we are and how important it is that we follow the building standards so that we can mitigate, we can lessen whatever the blow is of these natural disasters. Hurricane is what we probably get, but we can get tsunami from earthquake.
Yeah, but of course, there's
and we can get dust if St. Vincent ever. Remember when the St. Vincent earthquake volcano came, the ash and the discomfort and the respiratory diseases that come with it, and the killing, they lost all their food and all the rest of it. We have to be very aware that climate change is real. Okay? That, yes, we see this sporadic kind of rain, like happened on Friday. You have these little squally little showers that come up and create discomfort. We have to make sure that we don't break down, we don't cut down all the trees by the river, right? We have to make sure that we avoid the accumulation of mosquitoes by making sure we have proper drainage, that we cover the water that we're collecting, right? Because there is still Zika, and there's a lot of dengue, and there is still chikungunya that exists around. We may not see it, but if the mosquitoes come in, they're going to bring it.
They're there. Yes, indeed.
All right? So we have to make sure that we protect ourselves, we keep up our property clean, and we make sure that we prevent mosquitoes. And we give our children, we put on their Odomus or whatever you're going to put on them to prevent mosquito bites and stuff, because there is dengue.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
The diseases that are related to climate change, remember, if you have a disaster, you're going to need to have medications in your house if you have chronic disease. All right? You're going to have to make sure you have space to put your disabled family, your children with Down syndrome, your children with cerebral palsy, your seniors who can't help themselves. There are lots of things that we still need to keep in our mind to be well, right? Even after hurricane, right? Or any disaster. Make sure you always have medications for at least another 2 weeks. Right? I know people like to wait till the medication comes down to naught. No, go and get your refill.
That's
right?
That's
so that
true.
you can have your medications. All right? Control your blood sugar and stuff now so that you don't have to worry. I don't know what's going on with sugar, Lord, and end up in hospital. We can't have people in hospitals when you have people injured from disease.
That's right.
And I remember that when you have a disaster affects everybody, including the health staff. So we must be prepared for these disasters that comes around. We talk about the heat and making sure your house ventilated. Look out for the old people, especially the old people who live alone. They're at risk, okay? And they can become very dehydrated. I had a friend whose father got very dehydrated. And my dad is behaving crazy. Oh no, her father was just dehydrated. Those was in the days when we were having the hot weekends, the hot days. Just rehydrate him and he was fine. Right, so make sure we look out for one another. Make sure we're prepared, because I hate the fact that we're often not prepared. And when the disaster comes, when the disaster comes, when the whatever phenomena comes, whatever climatic or weather phenomena comes on us, we have a real disaster simply because we failed to prepare. You still need to put away some food. You still need to have some bottled water that can last you for everybody for 3 days. And most of us live close to the river. We go to the river and get water to wash our bodies, right? You still need to make sure that your house is in a way that there's a safe spot where your family can go just in case there's something.
Yeah,
that you have a communication system set up. So, like, if you were at school at TAMCC, or you were at work at St. George's University, and there was an earthquake, your children know exactly where they should go, who they should go to. They can identify themselves. They can speak to the police. They can say, I live here, there, or elsewhere. Okay? Make sure your family has a disaster plan. If you don't have a plan, if you fail to plan, you're going to have challenges. Right? And I'm not wishing it happens, but I wish if it should happen, that we all prepare,
we are prepared.
And we can all support each other.
Yeah, yes. Indeed. So, Doc, we have to continue, having these discussions. I think it's very important that we put it out there so people
can. I think we would address it. We'd address it in relation to food safety during these big times. Yeah. We're going to talk about it another time, because I saw a video that was very yes. We need to speak about that. And also, and I want to remind people that when you go to a place where there's food, you can actually demand to see the food handlers for everybody who works in there, if you choose.
Yes.
Right? Be safe. protect yourself, especially when your children going out and eating food on the road. You don't want them to pick up diseases that can be, that can kill them.
So, Doc, that's all the time we have tonight. Folks, we thank you so very much for staying with us. It was indeed a pleasure. Our friends on the YouTube channel, we had quite a few people, following on YouTube as well. We thank you so much. And, of course, we look forward to being with you next week. We'll be here next week. But the following Tuesday, we'll have to skip because it is the semi-final of the CPL, and then we will be back. So, definitely, we on. I think, Doc, on the 23rd, we have World Pharmacist Day coming up. And so we will be chatting with some of them. They've made a request to be on the program with us to have a discussion. So on the 23rd we will have them here. But next week I think we should continue on the issue of the food safety, very important, and just continue.
Yeah, I hope we can do food safety next week.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you again, folks. It was indeed a pleasure being back. We continue with our discussion tomorrow evening. We have CPL action, so be sure to join us for that. So until then, have a good night. All the best.